Welcome to the BeanBoys. Is Red Dead Redemption 2 the greatest game of all time? Did Epic just kill Fortnite and Tfue and Cloakzy won how much? Find out the answer to all of these questions and more coming up right now on the BeanBoys. Our first story of the day has to do with Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, if you're not playing Call of Duty or Fortnite or any other multiplayer games right now, I'm not surprised because Red Dead Redemption 2 dropped on Thursday and the response has been insane. This was a release that had players lined up so far that large media was covering it. It was reminiscent of the old Halo launches and of course some of the previous GTA titles, even some old Call of Duty titles themselves. The game is being hailed for its ridiculously immersive world and great story, and seeing how it has received several perfect scores already from reviewers, apparently everything is just about perfect. Of course, that world building did come at a cost. A few weeks ago, Rockstar execs were caught boasting about how many hours their development team were doing, and with a staff of over 100,000, some experts have estimated a cost production of $850 million. A staggering number and nearly 4 times the cost that the same experts have estimated for GTA 5. But since that title brought over $4 billion, it's clear where Rockstar got the money and the confidence to do such a massive game. With only needing to sell 16.9 million to break even, and with sales projections nearing around 40 million after the holiday season, we suspect that this game is going to pay up big. Now our next story has to do with Call of Duty. Earlier this week, Treyarch was caught drastically reducing the frame rate in Black Ops 4. Both multiplayer and Blackout are running on 20Hz servers for the PS4 and PC. Now this information was uncovered by Battle Nonsense, who did extensive testing for server delays on the Black Ops beta and since launch. Fans are seriously unimpressed, especially the hardcore and competitive players. Players have definitely been noticing inconsistencies in the gunplay and hit markers, and their complaints have now been vindicated. Players feel especially upset because the beta had the multiplayer frame rate of around 60 Hz, which was similar to the previous Call of Duty titles such as World War II. While Blackout actually only ran at 10 Hz during the beta, it's now running at 20. But this is still disappointing, as right now the frame rate seems to be capped at 20 regardless of the amount of players still in a lobby, which is unlike Fortnite where the frame rate tends to increase as players are killed off. My overall opinion is kind of upset. Right now I've pretty much stopped playing Call of Duty because I don't really think that it's going to make that much of a difference, but because I can go out and play a game like Fortnite at 60 Hz or another first-person shooter such as Rainbow Six Siege or even Overwatch, having all those games run at least 60 Hz really makes it tough for me to justify choosing Call of Duty, especially with Call of Duty being such a Twitch-based shooting game. I really don't see much reason to play the multiplayer if my speed and accuracy isn't going to be rewarded properly. With that being said, I'm not going to completely write off the game. I'm just taking a break until Activision invests in some better servers, which I'm honestly confident they're going to do, since this YouTube channel does actually have over 1,000 subscribers, so you know that Treyarch is listening to me. So our next story of the day is Fortnite brought in a new massive update called Fortnitemares. Now Fortnitemares brings a ton of massive and exciting changes. The most notable changes are the ability to redeploy your glider from a certain height. They also brought in reactive skins and reduced the amount of storm damage you take. And they have that, what was the other change? Oh yeah, they added a shit ton of zombies all over the map. Now the zombies and glider redeploy have received most of the attention from the community, with some people saying that it has made Fortnite more enjoyable, and others saying that Epic has completely ruined their favorite game. Both features seem to be only temporary, however, with the zombies almost certainly being taken out once the Fortnitemares event is over, and the redeploy option could be gone as early as Tuesday with the implementation of the new balloons. According to the Happy Power YouTube channel, the balloons are an item that you pick up and it will replace the glider redeploy. Now I personally think that everybody is completely overreacting. Yes, the zombies can make endgame a little bit too hectic, but they have the potential to be a ton of fun. I personally really enjoy the strategic aspects that they could bring to the game, and if Epic could reduce the amount and have them only designated to the corrupted areas, then you could actually use them in certain circumstances. For instance, if you needed more shield or ammo or better guns, yes, you would risk giving away your position and being third party, but if you killed enough zombies, you could potentially get the loot that you need. Now this would be a very interesting risk versus reward system that Epic should really look into implementing long term. It's sort of like what Call of Duty did in in their battle royale, which I think most people enjoy. But right now, however, there is just way too many of them. And it seems like I run into them everywhere, and they either interrupt my fight or force me to give away my position unnecessarily. In fact, endgame, zombies are more of a threat than the players you're fighting, which is not the way that Fortnite's meant to be played. I know Epic has been tinkering with them, so let's give them some time before we make our final decision on the whole thing. Because after it's all said and done, I really do think it could be a fun addition to the game. Now, the redeploy option, on the other hand, I think is already a fantastic addition, and I am generally shocked by the backlash it has received by both the competitive and casual community. The amount of people complaining about Epic adding this and taking away bouncers makes no sense to me. This is a less RNG, more consistent replacement for bouncers that everybody has access to at all times. Bouncers gave players the ability to take high ground and disengage a fight without providing the other player a valid option to counter unless they too also were lucky enough to find a bouncer early on in the game, which, if you didn't know, is the definition of RNG. Nothing was more frustrating than outbuilding somebody and then having them bounce off a ramp and take high ground from you, or taking high ground from somebody, having them bounce off and disengage the fight, shoot the bouncer in midair, and then having you die because some random person decided to shoot you down. The redeploy option solves all of these problems, and it speeds up the gameplay, and it makes it easier to rotate from the storm, which, by the way, is another heavily based RNG factor in Fortnite. Now, a main concern of this was how it would affect the competitive scene, and to be frank, it kind of fixed a lot of issues. The most recent tournament Epic hosted at TwitchCon was by far the most entertaining, non-laggy tournament that they have hosted so far. Having the redeploy option allowed players to take more fights early game without the risk of being shot down and dying to fall damage, and it made turtling up late game to get kills off rotations much less effective. Both of these things made for a much more entertaining and consistent version of Fortnite in the competitive scene that we have yet to see. Now, obviously the lag reduced because it was a LAN event, but still, circles that used to have 70 plus players in them ended up only having around 40 to 50 players. It also brought back the advantage to players who had high ground, which is the way it should be. Overall, I think this redeploy option is a fantastic addition to the game, and I hope that Epic changes their minds and keeps it. Now, speaking of the TwitchCon tournament, this weekend Fortnite held their $2.6 million Fortnite tournament at TwitchCon. And what a tournament! By far the most entertaining tournament that Fortnite has put on so far. Finally, we got to see all the best duos in the world battle it out to see who will come out on top. Now, a few noticeable names were missing, however. Ninja and Myth come out off the top of my head. Now, I do assume that Ninja didn't compete because he had so much going on at the event, but Myth, on the other hand, really should have been there. It was slightly disappointing to see players such as Myth, Symphony, Hamlins, Sphenos, and Kinstar all play at the Stream Invitational as opposed to the competitive duos tournament. All of those players I just mentioned are professional players, and it's disappointing to see them not compete at the highest level, especially for Myth and Symphony. I really think that duo would have done well, and I've seen clips of them practicing together in the past, so I have no idea why they didn't show up. But anyways, back to the tournament. Tfue and Cloakzy take home first place and over $500,000 in prize money in what can only be described as a dominant performance. After winning Heat 1 convincingly, they come into the grand finals, winning one game and getting the most eliminations with 28. Now, these past few weeks have been absolutely incredible for Tfue. After PAX West, where things weren't looking too good for him from a competitive standpoint, in that he was once considered to be one of the best players, if not the best, but with a disappointing 22nd finish at PAX West and the rise of other top players such as Poach, Vivid, and Ghost Bizzle, it really took him out of the conversation for being top 5 in the game, let alone number 1. But these past few weeks have done the exact opposite. He is now, without a doubt, the best player in the world at this point, winning the last 2 solo skirmishes and the most recent duo tourney at Twitch is such an incredible achievement. And yes, I know Cloak did come in clutch with the hot carry, but it doesn't take anything away for how dominant Tfue has been recently, and I'm incredibly happy for him. Speaking of Cloak, he really had a coming out party this tournament. I was getting sick and tired of hearing about people online always talking about how Tfue carried him. Cloak has been a top 10 player in the game, especially in duos, where his leadership and game knowledge really shine through. And this tournament was no different, where he actually got 22 out of the duo's 28 eliminations. Another great performance comes from Nate Hill and Funkbomb. Personally, this was my favorite performance because of how much controversy surrounded them going into the event. For those of you who don't know, Nate Hill did receive a 2-week ban from the skirmishes, and Funkbomb was basically kicked out of the entire event for quote-unquote cheating. Now, thankfully, both players were allowed to compete at TwitchCon, and you could definitely tell that they had a chip on their shoulder. And if there was any question about their skill, there isn't anymore, as they finished second place and played incredibly well. They have always been one of the most consistent duos in the game, and it was great to see them come back and be successful. In fact, if I was FaZe, the first thing I would go out and do is sign Funkbomb to a contract, bench Jailmock and Tempo, and have your competitive squad be Tfue, Cloakzy, Nadehill, and Funkbomb. Because Nadehill has really established himself as a top 5 player in this game, and Funkbomb is not far behind. Now that's a squad that could take down Liquid and Ghost. Now Knights, Zexro, and Vinny came in third place, taking home $160,000. Now I love to see this because Knights Zexro continues to make himself known as one of the best players in the world. He's currently not signed to an organization, so it will be very interesting to see who picks him up. The top 5 was rounded out by Ghost, DMO, and Bizzle coming in 4th, and Ghost, Kayun, and Sean coming in 5th. The Controller Gang of Nick Merckx and Ghost Aiden came in 9th, and they put together one of the best games, dropping 9 kills. However, overall, I would say that their performance was a little bit disappointing. Not in terms of placement, because 9th is still very good, but you could definitely tell their chemistry was a little bit off. They found themselves often splitting up where one of them would end up getting picked off, and I think if they just stuck together more, they might have seen a little bit more success. And I would really love to see this duo stick together. Keep practicing scrimming and try again at another skirmish, because I really do think they have the potential to get top 5 at these events. Now the overall format was fantastic. They did the big bonus format, which seems to be the best combination of skill and placement. Another big surprise to me was that Poach and Vivid didn't even qualify. Poach has been one of the most vocal competitors about his dislike of the new TwitchCon format, so it was interesting to see him and Vivid not even qualify in their heat. Now this is the second event where Vivid has disappointed me. I am of course referring to PAX West, where Vivid didn't even qualify for that either, and him and Poach have just not been their dominant selves since PAX West and the summer skirmishes. But I don't think they're done yet. Look for them to go back to the drawing board and come back better than ever for the winter skirmish, I guess. Anyways, that's all for the TwitchCon tournament. And in the last bit of Fortnite news, Drake invested in 100 Thieves esports franchise. Of course, I know them mostly for their Fortnite teams, but they have a whole bunch of teams, including Call of Duty and League of Legends. Now, this is great because it once again goes to show the potential that the industry has. And finally, Myth revealed the 4th competitive player of TSM being Kaysid, or Kaysid. I'm not fully sure how to pronounce that. Now, personally, I don't get this decision at all. I know Kaysid is a great player, but with free agents like Symphony and Zexro out there, it doesn't really make any sense. I am, however, looking forward to seeing Myth practice with a more consistent duo partner. Since Hamlin's clearly hasn't worked out, this could be a step in the right direction. And even though I do think there were better options available, I don't think Case is a bad player by any means. And it will be interesting to see how him and Myth end up placing at other duo tournaments. So that is all for today, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on TwitchCon and the new Fortnitemares update for Fortnite. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Tell us why down below. And join us next week for another news update. And remember, when it comes to our channel, be there or be square.